And just so everybody knows, we are live here while Omashar is bringing us in. I just thought I would fill in the void so that people didn't think they were missing something. We're getting everybody tuned in here.
We are, and hopefully we're all live. Oh, it is. How about that? Recording. I got to record. Why doesn't it say record?
And maybe just for a second, while I've got the mic, if people could where they are dialing in from around the world.
That's right. We have Paul and Omashar as the co-hosts tonight. And we've got a couple of amazing guests with us tonight. I'm just going to get the bumper started and we shall see you in a moment. A divine moment, of course.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Yes, indeed. We come from the same source, a powerful love force. And welcome to another insightful and, I was going to say intrepid voyage on the good ship, the Awakening World. And our beloved Scott is currently in a traffic jam on his way to his hotel, wherever it is, somewhere in space. And he will be with us very shortly. And we have an amazing show ahead of us. And so welcome everybody on Facebook, welcome everybody on YouTube, and welcome everybody on our many broadcast partners. We're so grateful for you and for restreaming us out to the world. And of course, this show lives on forever in the digital world. And so I am Omashar, the co-host for this evening and the house musician. What a concept. And tonight we have some amazing guests about healing our family ties. They're all professional love coaches, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. But let's start with putting in the chat box questions about issues perhaps you have with family members or other relationships or relationships in life, so that we have some fodder for the mill. And so first I'm going to bring up beloved Katrina. And here she is, and with me. There we go. And she is one of our beloved guests tonight, and we've seen her many times on this show. And of course, those of us who went to the Sedona Global Peace Tribe retreat last year met her in person there, and what a beautiful presence she is. And then just up the road from me, up in Estes Park, is this gentleman, Paul. And another dude, just a blessing to have you with us, Paul, tonight. And thank you also for agreeing to co-host, because we like your humor. You know, I may not find it funny, but most people like your humor. And here we also have Yara. Iara, everybody, not Lara, Iara, it's an I. And these
Hi,
are,
everyone.
yeah, this is going to be a wonderful show. And we know that Scott will drop in sooner or later, but we have the coordinates set, and I will play us an opening song, and it's one of the newer songs of mine, and it's called In the Stillness. And it's about when things get tough, just go into the stillness and find your center, find that still point within yourself, the 12 o'clock point, and let everything fall away, and then come back from that place anew. And so I will, how do I do this? I can, all right, I'm learning as I go along. So 1, 2, 3, oh Larry. And then it's going to leave me. And Paul, if you like to spotlight anybody who's moving and grooving as we get on with the song, then please spotlight them. And here we go. The quieter you become, the more you can hear in the silence, in the stillness. I am here. Paul, let graces through the wisdom of your tears, through your heartbreaks, through your breakthroughs, through the shedding of your fears. Know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you, and love leads us through. I love you. Now your heart and mind is clear, and you know that love is with you, love supports you, love is here. And you feel that you belong, and you're walking with purpose. You can hear your life's new song. To know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you, and love leads us through. I love you. Through the wisdom of your tears, through your heartbreaks, through your breakthroughs, through the shedding of your fears. To know that I am with you and guiding your way. Know that I am cheering you on. Truth lives within you, and love leads us through. I love you. I love you. Yes, I do. I love all of us, every single one of us. And I just saw someone beaming in from Australia, from Sydney, no less. And that would be what happened there? I don't know. Where's she gone? Hang on a minute. Sorry.
Connie is spotlighted.
She is.
Here,
Oh.
Andrew and I are here in Sydney, Australia, sending you love to all.
Having a wonderful time. Oh, perfect. Nice to see you, Connie. And so let's get on with the show, which is, of course, healing our family ties. And what we're going to do initially is bring up each of our presenters, starting with Katrina, who's going to give us a little insight into about healing our family ties. And so here we are. Very cool. And
Right.
all right. Paul, you've got everyone stacked up here. I'm blaming it on you.
Yeah, it's
One button and
almost there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and beloved Katrina, action. Love you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to be with you all today. And certainly healing family ties is a topic that is deeply passionate for me. It is that topic that really led me to the study and deep dive into nonviolent communication over 17 years ago. And the transformation that I've been able to create in my own life and then support in the lives of friends, family, and clients has been such a gift. You know, Rumi says that our job is not to seek out love, but to find and remove the barriers we have built against it. And something I love about Dr. Marshall Rosenberg is he really highlighted the social conditioning that we're all raised in, we're steeped in, that is against compassion. It's against connection. It creates pain, division, and maintains power structures, domination structures, and hierarchies. And when you can really see that, then you can start to undo it and start to replace it with habits that create healing. So, you know, whether we're looking at a large system, a corporate system, an institutional system, or we're looking at a family, we still have a system of people who are working together. And so the principles are the same. And what I love is that we can work with our families, and through applying these techniques to ourselves and in our closest relationships, we start to embody and create an example of the kind of communication and compassion that heals our relationships. So we can create peace in our family, which is the building block for peace in our world, right? Peaceful families can create peaceful communities, and that extends. So I really see each of us as being deeply empowered through this sacred work of family healing. For myself personally, a tool that has been very potent is the Love Smart cards, which I created many years ago. And this was what I used to help create strategies that would support my ability to learn nonviolent communication really quickly from the convenience of my home on an as-need basis. So I began to not only take classes and study, you know, all the material that's available, but I started to also implement this immediately in my relationship to my son, who was really struggling at the time, in my relationship with my ex-husband, and we were not doing well at that time. And then in my other relations, because it applies to all our relations. And the turnaround that I had with my son was so heart-touching, so miraculous. You can find that story when you sign up for my newsletter. But in short, I'll say he was going through these massive fits on a daily basis, screaming for a half hour every day. And after playing just a half hour of something, it's an empathy game using the cards, you identify feelings and needs. So that's 2 of the decks in this set. The entire dynamic shifted. So that was the most poignantly dramatic healing that I've experienced in my family. And yet it's far from the only one. Every single relationship has benefited. My relationship with my ex-husband is in a really friendly, warm, collaborative place. And that is a miracle compared to once what it was, 17 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, when I was struggling and trying to figure out what are the missing pieces. So bringing this to you and to your family, what I would say is that in nonviolent communication, there's some core principles that make a world of difference. Again, seeking to really shine a light on the unconscious ways that we communicate that deteriorate a sense of connection and create pain. It's really good to know what those are so that we can stop doing those, right? Stop doing the things that are creating the results we don't want to have and start implementing the kinds of practices that will create that sense of connection. And in terms of creating that sense of connection, there's no more powerful tool that I know of than the power of empathy. Empathy, in its most basic practice, is to identify emotions and needs. And I'm sure for those of you who have been watching the show and following Scott, or who see me from time to time, have heard how important this piece is. And I bet some of you have practiced it as well. And probably many of you have been surprised when you actually identify, like, okay, there's a conflict. What am I feeling? And find the exact words. What are those precious universal needs that are alive in me right now? Find those words. It calms the nervous system. Conflict happens when our nervous system is wired. When we are in a space of love, compassion, when we're feeling centered, when we're feeling well-resourced, it's so much easier to have a productive conversation. So one thing it does is it calms the nervous system. It helps give you greater clarity in terms of what's going on for you. It helps you bring your consciousness and your awareness to what can I do? What's an action I can take to move this in a more positive direction? When you understand the needs that are driving you, you can bring a conscious strategy to those. And then you can use empathy in relationship to the other person, whether that's your parents, your children, your spouse, your ex, whoever it is. When there's a dynamic where there's conflict, or you've got something in the past that hasn't been healed, you can bring that up and you can say, I just really want to own that I recognize I've done some things that have been hurtful to you. And I may not even know what they are, but I'm willing to hear what they are. And I'm willing to understand, to listen and to understand, to walk in your shoes, so to speak, so that I can understand those feelings and needs that were alive in you. And we can mourn the pain of the past and build something new that feels a whole lot better as we move forward. So empathy is such a core piece, especially when applied to yourself and to others. And I feel like it's such a big piece. I really just want to highlight that as a primary tool as we go into this first round of introduction in terms of what can help to heal the family unit, help heal your family relationships.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, Paul.
Because you sound so calm and nice. It's like, how do you do what you're talking about, doing the empathy and the entering their world when you're triggered? I'm just trying to ask it for others and for myself. Not that I've ever been triggered, though.
Right. Sure. So, when we're triggered, the brain goes offline. So in a triggered state, we're more likely to say things that we'll later regret. And one thing is just to be aware, like, this happens for everyone, even Marshall Rosenberg, like even people who have really, really high level training. If you get into a triggered state, if your heart rate is over 80 beats per minute, your brain has gone offline. And so the first thing is just to recognize that that's happening, because sometimes people just kind of go into a trance and they, how many of us have had words that we've blurted out that are hurtful? In retrospect, it's like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But in the moment, couldn't stop yourself. So the first thing is just to notice, like, I'm in a triggered state. I'm at risk of saying something I will later regret. And if you can catch yourself, then you might still have the capacity to say, I notice I'm feeling triggered. I notice that if we continue this, I might say something I would regret. So I need to take some space. And you take that space and then you can do a self-empathy process, or you can do a gratitude process, whatever it is that you need to do to resource yourself. I highly, highly recommend empathy, of course, and gratitude. But you need to resource yourself again so that you can calm down your nervous system and come back to it. So that would be my top recommendation is just notice that we get incapacitated sometimes. There's also something called screaming in giraffe. I don't recommend that immediately. It is a tool that can work when you want to express your upset, but you really need to be grounded and centered to do it well, and you need to have a big skill set underneath you. So I would just put that as a book note, that, you know, for people who have really, they've learned how to notice that they're triggered, they've learned how to give themselves empathy and gratitude, and they're wanting to add another skill. You can check out something called Screaming in Giraffe online. I know I've got a YouTube video about it. And Paul, I'm curious if that is getting to what it is that you're wanting to tune into.
Yeah, I just wanted people to get the idea that it's a challenge and we all get triggered.
Absolutely.
What do you do when you're upset? Because you're sounding so flowing and goddessy, and it's like, it seems so easy. And I know you've been on a real journey. You know, that there were times where it didn't feel that way. So I don't want somebody to think it's like they can't get there, that anybody can do it. I mean,
yeah, in one way, anybody can do it. And yeah, in a triggered state, it is very, very, very hard. So my top recommendation is to get out of the triggered state and to do so with the least amount of harm to yourself or anyone else. So it's recognizing it and really taking a break and going into self-care.
and if Scott was here, he would tell us about the green light, yellow light, and red light. And red light,
Yes.
I learned from Scott, and I'll stop talking here in a second. But I will literally stop mid-sentence. If my beloved says red light, I will stop talking, not another word, because it's every word you say is going to be damage.
So talking about not saying another word, let's put you on the spot, Paul, and have you give your little opening to healing our family ties. And yes?
I was going to be number 3.
Well, you're up here already, brother. Come on.
Okay.
Well, so just before we put Paul on the spotlight, I appreciate you mentioning connected timeouts. And for those of you who are live with us on Zoom, in the Zoom room, you get an extra bonus. I'm going to put it in a 12-page document that includes connected timeouts. It includes a worksheet, a guide, and words lists, all kinds of tools that you can use when you get into that triggered state that will help you become more calm, more centered, more clear, and better resourced to come back to the conversation. All right, take it away, Paul.
All right. And maybe almost sure I can't tell which screen I'm on. I know you made me co-host, but I don't.
No, you're on, brother. You're up.
Okay, because I don't see me on there.
You're there. Just go on to put speaker view, top right hand of your screen. Click, make it sure it says speaker view.
Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. I want to start where Katrina left off at some levels with a Marshall Rosenberg story. Now, I was probably the least likely to teach nonviolent communication. I went through 1 divorce, 4 broken engagements, and I left home at age 17 to become a commercial fisherman. And Scott's talking about family ties today, and my family ties were pretty painful, and I'll talk about that. But I literally flew. I was living in Canada at the time, and I flew to Sweden to spend almost a month studying with Marshall. And Marshall was with Ava at the time, and I stayed at the house he was staying at. So Ava was flying in. Marshall went to the airport to pick her up. She missed him and came to the house. So here I've just flown halfway around the world, and they get into a big fight the first night I'm there. And I'm going like, at some point, I finally interrupted Marshall and Ava, his beloved, and said, you know what? This would be a really good place to use that nonviolent communication shit. Because I just flew halfway around the world to learn it from you. So you better be better at it than this. And it was an interesting lesson for me because I got to see that even though you know the skill, it's always still a choice. I choose to be empathetic. I choose to be understanding. And what I want people to think about, like, so we communicate, we speak 3 different languages. And Katrina, see if this makes sense to you, but the language of the head, the language of the heart, the language of the hurt. And I use my little reptile brain here. So when people get in their reptile brain, and I've worked with couples, I've been a relationship coach for about 25 years, and I've worked with couples all around the world. And I've also done a lot of family work because my family was pretty much really dysfunctional. And I have helped siblings that haven't talked to each other in 4 or 5 years get back together, and they were really close growing up and they had a rift. So the 3 skills that are really important to me are forgiveness, healing, and rebuilding trust. And how do you know, Marshall wasn't too hot on apologies, and I think that partly it's because of how they're done. But I studied a little bit. Brene Brown brought up some stuff, a 3-part apology of like, what's the intention? If I'm trying to heal, if I've done something and I hurt Katrina's feelings, the number 1 thing is like, what's my intent? Is my intent to just have her stop bugging me? So I go, I'm sorry. So if there's somebody that's in your life that you need to apologize to, or you want to heal it with, know your intent. And the second part is to acknowledge what I did. Like, I borrowed your car, I ran it out of gas, and it's up the road 3 miles from here. So would that complete it? Would you feel like I really apologized? No, it's like I acknowledge what I did, and then I'm accountable for the impact of my behavior. And part of what really is healing is people want to be heard, understood, and valued. Heard, understood, and valued. And it sounds so incredibly simple, and it's really challenging to do. And the most challenging part is the understood part, because they're going to have a different experience than you do about life. And when they start to just say, well, when you did this, well, actually, I'll give you an example. I was working in prison. I was teaching prison inmates about this communication skill, the nonviolent communication. And by the way, I look at Marshall, who's trained Scott, Katrina, me, many other people. I look at my life before Marshall and after Marshall, and it transformed the way I communicate. Studying with Marshall was like getting I like to putting together jigsaws. Jigsaw puzzles, not jigsaws, jigsaw puzzles. Anyway, I like putting together puzzles, and the most important part of a puzzle is the box top. And so when I went to study with Marshall, it was like getting the box top. I saw how the pieces fit together. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of that and then apply it to families. One was when I was teaching with in prison, these 2 cellmates were having a problem. And one of them said to the other one, I hate it when you touch my stuff because we have so little privacy. Please don't touch my stuff. Can you tell me what you heard me say? And the other person said, this other woman said, yeah, you don't want me as your cellmate. Now, one of the rarest quotes, that's my favorite quote from Marshall, is the normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. And I remember when he said that, and it just touched me. I wrote that down. I've kept it with me, because if you listen to that statement, the one cellmate said, I don't like it when you touch my stuff. I have a little privacy. Can you tell me what you heard me say? The other cellmate said, yeah, you don't want me as your cellie. And so a lot of what starts family breakups, family upsets, family injury is misunderstandings that don't get resolved. And part of the thing, if that it would be a really helpful tool is like having Katrina's cards. The cards are part of the system that make it easier when you're triggered to go back to the feelings and needs and stay in the format. Have some sort of guideline to go back to it so you don't get lost in the conversation. So what you're trying to do is enter their world so they feel heard, understood, and valued. And if you really want to heal somebody or heal the relationship, listen to them. And there's a special kind of listening. And then I'm going to hand it off and we'll get some questions and answers in there. I call it no wonder listening. You might want to write that down. Somebody could write it in the chat. No wonder listening. Because if I listen to Katrina and I really try to listen to her and I hear her story, like her feelings, needs, and the story, there's a part of me when I listen from my heart, I go, no wonder she's upset. No wonder she's hurt. No wonder she's angry. If you've hurt somebody's feelings, try to understand not only their feelings and needs, but what story are they telling themselves? And when you're being vulnerable, go into what story you're telling yourself. Not that you're right, but when you came home late, when you did that. Like, I have lots of stories about my older brother who used to be cruel. He used to beat me until I collapsed. Like, it wasn't good enough just to beat me up. And so I had to work a lot on my communication skills and healing family ties. And I got to say right now, my brother, my younger brother, my older brother is no longer around, and my mom and I have the best family communication ever. And a large part of this I owe to the work of Marshall. So that's it for now. I've got a lot of other stories and things to cover, but there you go, Omashar, giving it back to you.
Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, well, we should expand on that in a moment. And let's just bring in Iara right now and have her perspective on healing our family ties and where to go with this. Welcome, Iara. Nice to see you. See you in a minute.
Hey, Omashar. Hey, everyone. So nice to be here again. It's a pleasure, especially to talk about such an important subject, right? Healing our family ties. And thank you, Katrina, and thank you for Paul to speaking so well about the importance of communication on healing family ties. I was just like absorbing everything. I want to take notes of everything. Such beautiful information that we can use in our daily basis. And I would like to explain a little bit on the family constellation side of things about healing the family ties. Because family constellation understands that we are all connected within our family systems. Actually, we're all connected within systems, right? We have the system of the trees. We have all the trees connected with each other. We have the system of monkeys, the system of the waters, and we have the system of the human beings. And we're all connected as human beings. And the smaller the system, more connected we are. Right? Then we have the tribal connection, the communities, and then we have the family connection. The family connection, yes, we're pretty connected over there. We're pretty tied to each other. Even if you think about that you're not tied to each other, believe me, we are tied to each other. But it's okay. It's okay to be tied in a family system. I believe what is not okay is to have an unhealthy tie. When that tie becomes an entanglement, and you no longer know, like, what is yours? What I'm feeling right now, is this mine? Or this belongs to a family member that I had an unresolved trauma and an unresolved situation in the past? Am I having this poor communication in my relationships and having a lot of issues with my romantic relationships, for instance? Is this all mine? Oh, actually, I'm picking up something from some of my ancestors that had traumas with romantic relationships. And now I'm picking that from them, bringing to my life and having this entanglement and these unhealthy ties that, okay, belongs to you, but it's coming from other place. So family constellation explains that so well. And I think it's wonderful because Some people like do, and I love therapy. I already did all types of therapy, just to let you know, even before I become a family constellation facilitator. But some people can go like 20 years to a conventional therapist and still have the repetitive patterns going on and relationship-wise in their lives. And then they go for one session of family constellation and they can see where the issue came from. And just from seeing where it came from, have that healing inside them. So just going back a little bit about how those entanglements can happen, how those unhealthy family ties can happen, how to identify if this is happening, what you can do to solve this issue. I would say people, like, if you have a repetitive pattern in your life, and you already tried everything to fix that situation. You did years of therapies, you went to different doctors, you went to shamans, everything. And nothing seems to resolve that situation that you have. Most likely is because that issue is in your family system. I mean, it's with you, but it came from somebody else. I'll just give an example. I'll give a generic example, but let's say that your, actually it's a generic example, but it happened. Let's say your great-great-grandmother, she was born on the time of the Second World War. And your great-great-grandfather went to war. He came back home with a severe PTSD, and they had a lot of relationship issues. He became violent to her. She started being super afraid of him, super defensive of their child. But during that time, women could not really speak what they're feeling, what's going on with them. So she just stayed quiet and in fear of that relationship. And that is like an unresolved trauma that your great-grandmother had. So family constellation already proved that through epigenetics, those unresolved traumas can be passed from generation to generation. So then you find yourself on the year of 2024 wanting to have a romantic relationship and nothing seems to work. So this can be because of the issue that your great-great-grandmother had on the past. So, like, as I told, how to identify that, one of the easiest way to identify that is if you already tried everything to solve the problem and you still haven't the issue. So first, identify. Is this coming from a family lineage, or is coming from a personal trauma that I had in my childhood, or if it's coming from some other place? Once you identify, what can you do to bring some resolution to that? Because you want to be a fulfilling romantic relationship. You want to be happy. You deserve to be a happy person. So what can you do to bring resolution to that? One thing that you can do once you identify the issue, you can use these figurines over here, but you can imagine let's say that this is your grandmother, and this is you. So you can even close your eyes or pick up a picture of your grandmother. And if you decide to close your eyes or pick a picture of your grandmother, imagine her in front of you. And get connected with her image or with her spirit, with her being. How would that be to be in front of that woman that probably you didn't even meet? Probably she already passed away, but how it is. And get connected with her and pay attention the feelings that you start feeling. That's you, that's your great-grandmother in your body. Once you establish that connection, believe me, it is possible to establish this connection because I work with that all the time and people do that all the time. Once you feel that connection, feel compassion in your heart for that woman, your great-grandmother, that had a lot of issues in her romantic relationship with your great-grandfather. Was not everybody's fault, it was just the circumstances, it was war, it was PTSD, right? But have compassion to that woman, feel the compassion in your heart, and then tell her, grandmother, I'm sorry for everything that you went through. And when you say I'm sorry, don't just say I'm sorry. Feel that in your heart. Have compassion to that woman. I understand, grandmother, whatever, how you want to call her, how difficult this probably was for you. I'm sure it was very difficult. And I have compassion to you, and feel that compassion in your heart. And pay attention to the sensations that comes to your body. You may feel some sadness, and it's okay if comes some sadness. Just keep that connection. Say the things that you want to say to that woman to comfort her. See her, tell, I now see you, and I now can see your pain. Because one of the things that we say in family constellation, that things keep repeating in the family systems because we cannot see them. Somebody became invisible and that issue became invisible. And then you brought this to you. And then after that, you can extend your hands to your great-grandmother's hands. You can extend your hands. And you can imagine that you are carrying a heavy rock or crystal in your hands. And then you can imagine like all these issues that you had with romantic relationships coming out of parts of your body, going through your arms, through your hands, and going to this rock that you're carrying. And really feel those things transfer from your body to the rock that you're carrying. And when you're ready, you can imagine passing this rock with all those feelings to your grandmother. Say, grandmother, thank you so much for all of that, but I now return to you what belongs to you. And I just keep what it belongs to me. So you give back to her because you have been carrying things that came from her that you no longer need to carry, that is not serving you, that is causing issues in your romantic relationships. And then after you do that, you can feel her presence a little bit more, feel that compassion, feel that love, feel the gratitude for the lessons that you learn from all of that. And then you say thank you and let her go with love. This is one of the exercises that we do with family constellation. It may seem simple, but it's very powerful. And I recommend it. You can do, if once you identify your issue, you do that with the person, the family lineage. You give back to them what belongs to them, and you just keep to you what belongs to you. And then let it flow. Pay attention to the things that is happening in your world, in your life after that. Because I can tell if something related with that person in your family system, you're gonna feel a difference in your relationships. And so I'll close for now.
Yara, thank you so much. We'll have a song in a moment, but just before you go, Dana just in the chat said, is there a way to transmute it without having to give it back to the person? And I think there was a specific...
In family constellation, we give back to the person. But one thing that I changed, because family constellation was taught by Bert Hellinger, and I needed to adapt in some things because I didn't like just give to the person. It's like, oh my gosh, now I'm giving all this heavy weight to this person, even though the person already passed away. I used to feel bad with that. So what I like calling upon when you give to the person, but you can call upon that person's guard angels and spiritual guides to really help that person to transmute if need to be transmuted as well. So you can do that, and I like doing that. Sometimes in family constellation sessions, we even have some drumming, some rattle, some shamanic aspects coming in to help to do that clearing. So it's not, you're not just handing to the person, okay, now you take care of that. Call upon their angels, call upon their spiritual guides to help that person to transmute that. Because that person, even though that person is in spirit, there is still like a sense of like a free will. You don't want to clear the things for that person, even it's like it's in the spiritual level, but you can call upon some help, some divine help to assist that person.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. And so we're going to have a little musical break by me right now. And however, please put your questions into the chat box, or if you like, you can raise your hand and we'll bring you on screen to ask questions specifically about your family or relationship. Let's call them issues, but everything that is an issue can always be resolved. And so Paul, feel free to spotlight anybody who wants to be spotlighted.
felt alone for oh so many years, held my head high to hide the pain, nowhere to turn, so to myself again I tuned my heart to the mother. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. Da, 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 ba, da, da, da. The time has come to wake my sleepy head and peel back the sheets of illusion. The time has come to lift my voice once more and sing the songs of the new world. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. I am one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. We are one with all feeling, and one with all love, one with all healing, and one with all. The time has come. The time has come.
Thank you, Meister Paul. Oh, goodness me. So I think this is the time where we need to say maximum grace to Scott, because I know he's chomping at the bit on a freeway with two accidents in front of him. He just sent me a photo of a photo of the wonderful traffic in front of him, just to prove he wasn't in a pub. So with Jasmine, and so this is the part of the evening where we'll get into tools. However, is there anybody who has raised their hand amongst us all who would like to ask a question about relationship that we could? Nobody. Oh, well.
I did see Grace raise her hand at one point. I don't know if she brought it back down.
Oh, there it is, right there. Grace.
Hi, I just wanted to share.
Okay.
I could share something really quickly.
Sure.
Just when I was about 9, I'm not sure, I think it was about 9 years old, and my grandmother was very ill. She was probably going to die soon. And my parents brought me to see her, might have been at the hospital. And I didn't know at that age, I didn't know for many years that she'd had some severe trauma in her life and in her background. I knew none of that. I just knew her of a somewhat stern woman who, one of my memories was visiting my grandparents, and she said, "Watch out, cans can have botulism in them." And I hardly knew what she was talking about. I was so young. And so I just saw this kind of severe woman, not unpleasant, but severe. And when I saw her in the hospital, I saw this pain and unhappiness in her and fear. And I saw her so deeply, and I saw her with so much love. And I don't remember what I said, but she must have said, "Oh, you must hate me. I'm not very lovable, am I?" Or something like that. And I said, "No, you are lovable." I felt I saw her. I felt I saw her soul. And I must have said something like, "You are lovable and there's nothing to be afraid of," or something. I don't remember what I said, but her face softened. This mask of her face, it fell away, and there was such a softening, such a beauty, such a depth and sweetness. And apparently later she told my parents that it had meant a great deal to her. So
Thank you, Grace. What a story. It's just so yes, there's no words for that at all. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to bring our three beautiful beamings back on to the screen here. There's beautiful 1, beautiful 2, and beautiful 3. And there's a question here before we get into perhaps practices from Dorina. And again, thank you, Grace. And Dorina says, what is your go-to tool in especially challenging situations and conflicts when de-escalation is needed and the other side is not so knowledgeable and experienced with NVC, for instance, emotional intelligence and self-evaluation? So that's a question, I think, from Dorina. So any of you can go for that, obviously.
I'll dive in. I know all of us will have ways because this is critical. One of my clients, and he's allowed me to share this, he's a pilot on 777s, and he was flying from Miami to Milan. And when they landed in Milan, he said he heard through the bulletproof door, there was yelling going on in first class. And he gets it to the gate, and the flight attendant comes back and says, "Captain, you gotta come back and square this away." And he's going, his story, not mine. He goes, "What would Paul do? What would Paul do? What would Paul do?" And he's walking back there. And this is a situation where it could have been dangerous, could have, gone for TSA and it was a woman, but they could have had her taken off the plane and everything. Instead, he walks back. And like I said earlier, we're speaking either from our head, our heart, or our hurt. And when we're in our reptile brain, this is really critical. When we're in our reptile brain, we're binary. And if you're not my ally, you're my enemy. If you're not safe, you're dangerous. So here's a magic sentence. And I love that you're asking for practical tools. Use this sentence. And he used it, and he goes, "Excuse me, miss, what do you need to feel safe right now? What do you need to feel safe right now?" Just feel that in your body. Like, what happens instantly is that single question says, "I'm your ally and your safety is important to me." And a lot of times we tell people like they shouldn't feel the way they're feeling right now. She did not need to hear anything like that. And as soon as he said, "What do you need to feel safe right now?" she reached out and grabbed his arm just lightly, but said, "I just need to feel like someone's supporting me," or, and he goes, "I will walk you to customs. I got you." Basically, he said, "I got you." And this guy he's an amazing pilot, and he's used it on multiple occasions. That's all I'll share right now. But those are magic words, because when you're in your reptile brain, the way we communicate is reactive. And in the reactive world, you can either dominate or be dominated. There's no compassion. There's no connection. So what do you need to be safe can bring them back up into their heart. So that's what I have.
Perfect. Katrina.
Well, I was thinking possibly I'd go third, because what I'd be tempted to do is a role play.
Nice.
So
Brilliant.
yes, I don't know if you want to go, Yara?
We remember the question.
Sure. Yeah.
What is your go-to tool in especially challenging situations and conflicts when de-escalation is needed and the other side is not so knowledgeable? Yeah.
So I'm not expert on non-violent communication, right? My thing is family constellation, but I can tell something that I do and I did before, and I don't know if it works for everyone, but it works for me, and it worked in my relationship with my husband, with some friends. But I remember Katrina told that when a person is out, the number one thing is to get out of that state of fight or flight, right? For me, like if a person's going completely out, I just need to go to another room. I just need to excuse myself. Little excuse. I'm going to the other room and we'll keep talking later. I cannot communicate with the person now. Paul and Katrina may say this may trigger some people. It may make people even more nervous. I'm not sure, but for me, it's the only thing that comes that I can do. That I said, okay, the person will calm down, and when the person calms down, is completely out of that state of fight or flight, I can have a conversation, but I cannot have a conversation with the person that state. There is no communication going on. So that's what I go from my personal experience, not my professional experience here. And I'll pass the word to Katrina.
Thank you for that. I mean, really, that is wise. And what both of you pointed to is how do we establish safety? So, Paul gave an example of a question that can help to establish safety. And you expressed, for somebody who doesn't know nonviolent communication or how we can do our communication aikido, so to speak, how do we have a boundary that really creates a sense of safety until it de-escalates and we can address it? And sometimes, there are times when I have been well resourced and somebody's escalating and I have the ability to stay connected. I don't feel like I have to leave. I'm wondering, Darina, would you be willing to do a role play with me, inspired by some kind of challenging experience that you've had? And if you want to pass, let us know that as well. I'm just wondering if there's somebody who might have an inspiration, so that we could do a role play here.
Let me ask you a question while we're waiting for that to happen. There were several people I saw asking about, like, what is empathy?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe since that's the backbone of what we teach, it might be good to have your description.
Sure. I actually posted that in the chat. So again, that doesn't work for people who don't come into the Zoom room, but I'm going to read my favorite definition. This comes from Carla McLaren, who wrote The Art of Empathy. She says, empathy is a social and emotional skill that helps us feel and understand the emotions, circumstances, intentions, thoughts, and needs of others, such that we can offer sensitive, perceptive, and appropriate communication and support.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one to meditate on. In nonviolent communication, our basic step is let's identify feelings and needs. So that's kind of like grade school level empathy. What Carla's pointing to is a mastery in empathy, where you're able to track not only the feelings and the needs, but also the circumstances of that person, the thoughts of that person. That's going to include thoughts of the moment, but it's also going to include their belief system or their social conditioning, and their intentions. What is it they're trying to create out of the situation? Can you track all of that? Can you be in their shoes enough that you can partner with them to support them to get their needs met in a way that's still in integrity of your own needs?
So Katrina, is there somebody else in the audience that could perhaps do this role play with you?
Absolutely. If there's anybody who wants to do that role play with me,
Because Darina's a little,
I
she's in
see
Ecuador and she has
unstable
a-
internet. Yeah.
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 So is there anybody who'd like to join in this? Put your hand up. Bonnie, come on. Dia.
Looks like Ian. I see a hand up.
Oh, there he is. Okay, you in for this? I'll just put you on the screen with Katrina. Welcome, Ian. Love
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. So Ian, perhaps you can consider some kind of a challenging situation where somebody was they were just kind of going at it. They're venting. Maybe you can find something that you remember that you've experienced that was just really difficult to deal with, and role play that person. Do you think you can do that?
I'll give it a try.
All right. Thank you.
So
Whenever you're ready. And I'm gonna put on what we call my giraffe ears in nonviolent communication.
Okay. All right.
And communicate in the way that I might manage a situation like that.
Okay, so I'm to be the person that I would have difficulty with.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. since you're on television, your hair is just a little bit messy, you know. You should really have thought of that before you got on the screen, you know, because people are going to think, why didn't she get her hair done? And it's going to disturb them. And you know, as your friend, I'm really upset that you didn't think of that, because it's so simple, and yet why didn't you think of that? I mean, goodness gracious. Huh?
And hearing your sense of care, and I guess the way my hair is done today isn't quite as refined as you imagine it could be. Is that right?
It's not. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like that's maybe frustrating or upsetting for you that I didn't take time to do my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what are people going to think? I mean,
Yeah.
if she can't take care of herself, you know, people think odd things and they get
Yeah.
very upset about it. And I'm a bit upset about it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing that the way my hair is done really matters to you, and that it can stimulate things if it seems out of place or not professional in some
Well,
way. Maybe it makes it harder to listen.
Yeah. You know, it's not. I think. Oh my God, what kind of image is she portraying here? You know, because you're very skilled at what you do, but goodness gracious, you have to present yourself properly too.
I'm really hearing how much you care about my presentation, and you'd really like the message that I have to share to be received.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll just pause right there. That was an unusual challenge.
It was.
In terms of the topic.
I think we should also all take a look at our hair over the moment.
This one's out of place right here. There we go. Got a little bit of gray showing. Got to cover that up or something. I don't know. Anyway, no, thank you for that challenge. Of course, I could have gotten offended. I could have gotten defensive. I could have said something about your hair. I could have done all of those reactive things.
Yes.
Yeah, and the practice of empathy is to seek to reflect back what I hear you saying. So I'm reflecting back the thoughts that I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
And the emotions, the values.
Yeah. And that, you know, I actually got to the point where I was feeling what I was saying.
Yeah.
I knew it didn't matter, but you know, it was part of the act. And
sure.
And yeah, I felt calmed by what you said. You know, I had to kind of rev myself up again to get going at it. Yes. Thank you.
Really skilled empathy, it has that calming effect.
Yes.
And so it's, you know, if these escalations, if we call that like the fire that can do damage, then empathy is the water, and it calms and it cools, and it reminds us that we are partners in life, right? We care about each other. So thank you so much for stepping up. If there's anyone else who has, you know, another challenge, maybe something that is, you know, of a different, besides my hair, something else, I'd be happy to do another role play. You know, if this one didn't quite scratch your itch, I'm totally happy to do that. And I found that role play is a very effective form of coaching and also training the people who I work with, because you can step into a character, and it's really powerful to not only receive empathy from a coach who knows how to give that to you, but then also to role play somebody who's difficult in your life and to experience a model of how you might be able to communicate with them in a way that can create some healing. So thank you again, Ian, for volunteering.
So while we're waiting for the next volunteer, I want to do a quick, maybe you could bring me up on the main screen there, a quick demonstration. So everybody put your hands together like this right in front of you. And when I say go, what I want you to do is push really hard with your right hand. Get ready, get set, go. Press harder, press harder, press harder. Okay, stop. Omasha, can I play with you for a second?
Yes, indeed, sir.
So where did your hands end up?
Well, kind of in the center, actually.
Right, pretty much in front of you. And this is going to tie right into what Katrina just did. But like as soon as I said, push really hard with your right hand, what did your left hand do?
Resisted, pushed back.
Equal and opposite. And
Equal,
they're
yeah,
right
no,
there.
yeah.
And what is different about what Katrina just did is she didn't push back. You know, I don't like your hair. My hair is fine. There was people who said on the thing, Katrina's hair is fine. They started taking sides. It's like right and wrong and taking sides. And Katrina took no sides. She was like the water. She's just like, you want to push over here? Yep. And it ties into the nonviolent communication stuff. And it also ties in another one of my mentors is Byron Katie. And what Byron Katie would have said is like, you know, your hair's really short. And rather than me argue, I would have said, I've had that thought. Yeah, I can find that. There's no argument. There's nothing to push against. There's no fight. And it's like, if you want to heal your relationship with a family member, find out what their story is. Oh my God. So you had, like, I've talked to people where there's 8 kids in the family and there's 8 different stories about what it was like to grow up in there. So tell me your story. Tell me what that was like. Tell me your pain and upset. And so as simple as the hair example was, Katrina put up no resistance. And so there's nothing to fight against. So there was space opened up. So I'm handing it back over.
Nice.
That was my quote from the outside.
It's brilliant. That's a bird's eye view. And Sylvia put her hand up. I'm going to bring you on screen, Sylvia, and you can open your mic up, as they say. And hey, is there somebody you'd like to speak with specifically or generally, Sylvia?
It's actually a thank you, and it's to everyone here tonight. And that's the first story that my father enlisted at 16. He lied about his age in the Air Force in World War II. And part of that was to get away from family trauma, especially his stepmother. And all of that had a not unexpected effect on the family system and me in particular. He's been in spirit since the early 80s, and my mom crossed over in 2000. And this whole show, I am inspired to work with them as a team in spirit for family healing and personal healing, in contrast with resisting.
That's beautiful, Sylvia. Thank you. That almost sounds like something that Ayara could comment on, especially with the healing in that constellation, with them having passed over. And so,
yes. And it also speaks to Darina's question about transmuting, and Ayara's response about we shouldn't do their work for them. If we do it as a team, we can support each other in the process.
That's beautiful, Sylvia, because that's sort of like we're the ones our ancestors have been waiting for. There is something beautiful in family constellation that was proven over and over again. Also, if you're the one doing the work and you do that healing in yourself, something that was brought to you from generations and generations, this will heal everybody on the back and you heal all the future generations as well. So it's very, very powerful. And one more time, they were able to prove that through some experiments, through epigenetics. They did experiments with mice, but they did experiment with humans as well. So it is something that it happens, Sylvia. So if you need any assistance to go through this process, count with me here, because it's very beautiful, because will affect your whole family system, not just you, because you're all connected and tied to each other.
That's beautiful. And I just got an update from Scott. He's just arrived at somewhere, and he's going to come online and grace us with his presence. And so that'll be lovely as well. And so I'm going to bring the three of you back on, because you're so pretty, all of you, especially this dude. And let's talk about some more tools. Excuse me, you're from Estes Park. So on that which has been presented so far tonight. Thank you.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about, tying it into the empathy thing. If somebody's cup is full, like if somebody comes home, my ex-partner, she used to work with at-risk kids, and she had a long drive and she had to deal with administration, and she would walk in and her cup would be emotionally full. And so if I said to her, Kristen, we should talk about your spending habits, what are the chances she's going to hear me in the way I want to be heard? Not likely. I needed to make sure I emptied her cup. Another word for empathy, like intimacy, into me, see, empathy, I've twisted a little bit. Empty me first. So emptying, if people have an emotional charge, they're all upset. When you give them empathy, a really good listening and feeding it back, just like Katrina did, you feed it back. What you're doing is you're emptying their cup, and then they can hear you. Because when their cup is full, they can't hear you. Doesn't matter if you yell or if you manipulate, there's no room. It's a law of physics. The most selfish, as in taking care of yourself, thing that you can do is listen first. Empty their cup. And then you can go, do you have room for me? And it's good to catch it. I call it the acorns and oaks. If an acorn hits the roof of your house, it's no big deal. Oak tree falls on your house, big deal. There's this, one of the things is don't sweat the small stuff. I say that's bullshit. Sweat the small stuff before it becomes an oak tree. It's easier to have a little conversation, like, you made a deal, you're going to do the dishes and you didn't. And I'm noticing I'm a little triggered. Can we have like a 2-second talk about it? But boy, you don't talk about it for weeks or months, and then all of a sudden an oak tree lands and they go, where did that come from? Well, it's been growing. So how often, did you use your cards with your son, Katrina?
Oh, I use them regularly in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, at least a few times a week. And over time, we needed them less, but regularly.
And see, the thing with tying in with family constellations and with this, it's like I notice role playing. If there's a family upset, if you do a role play where you get to enter their world, the other person might never even be here. But if you work with one of the professionals, you can dissipate so much energy just by being heard. And then we do a role play where you enter their world. You're them. And all of a sudden you go, oh, no wonder. No wonder they were so
light bulb moments. Those are super powerful sessions. Yeah.
And I think it's a mix of all of these, because I've heard so many good things about family constellations, and I've done a few smaller ones. It's like, how do we clear this up?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell one other quick story. I did this with my dad, because you can give yourself empathy. So my dad was a recovering Catholic Irish alcoholic. And he was dying of asbestosis. So basically, big, tough Irishman dying basically by suffocating to death over a long period of time, got asbestos in his lungs. I was talking to him one night. We're watching TV, and I saw the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This was many years ago. It's been going on. And I said, my teacher, Marshall Rosenberg, been making a difference over there. He's gone into, he's worked with the Palestinians, Israelis. My dad, who is, with all those descriptions, is also a liberal hippie. And he said, if Marshall was making a difference, it would be on TV, which is like, he never believed in TV. And it's like instantly I went into like, I was going to, if I opened my mouth, if I said a word, it wasn't going to be good. And so I was quiet for maybe 10 minutes. And I know based on our family patterns, he was thinking I was looking for the good comeback. And what I started with is, what an asshole. He never says anything nice. And then I said, oh, I need to hear something nice. So I gave myself some empathy. And then when I gave myself empathy, I could enter his world. And he had been a demonstrator against the war in Vietnam. He'd been arrested in Washington. He had filmed it. He had been an activist. Along with all this other stuff, he'd been an activist his whole life. And here he is. He knows he's dying. He knows he's had very little time left. And he's watching the news, and it doesn't look like anything's changed. And so how he lashed out, it felt like lashed out at me. And I looked at it and said, oh, he's in pain. And instead of a comeback, what I did is, when I finally could talk again, I said, wow, sounds like you're really disappointed because you've worked your whole life at trying to make a difference. And you're leaving soon. And the news looks the same as it's always looked.
Mm-hmm.
And he was stunned silent.
It's amazing, Paul. I have total empathy for your story. My grandfather had asbestosis, and he was a workhorse and somebody who was just trying to make everything better for everybody else. And his demise was like that, very short and very, very painful. And dude, yeah. So
yeah, and I have to say, like, this stuff works even if they don't ever take the course. My dad never took the course, but our connection, when he died, I was still heartbroken, but I had said everything I needed to say. Marshall had given me the tools to create that connection, to heal that family tie. So when he left, I didn't go, I wish I had said something different. I wish I had healed it. I didn't. I created such space for him and gave him such good empathy in this. And I stopped trying to fix and cure him, which when somebody's passing on, sometimes the people who love him try to do that, because I wanted him to stay.
yeah, so as a question that's coming up for me is, I did not have closure with my grandfather who passed away. I was in another country when he actually finally died. Passed away. He didn't. He died. And and I was really. I'm just, because you brought it up now, it's brought up something in me that is not complete. And is there any tools that any of us here have that perhaps could help me resolve these unresolved? My grandfather helped me grow up. He was my father, pretty much, for at least 10, 15 years of my life, or the father figure, should I say. And I was in New Zealand when he passed, and no one even told me that he'd gone to hospital and he was leaving. And then he died. And then 2 weeks later, they said to me, oh, your grandfather just died. And I went, holy crap. The pain is such, and I'm just kind of feeling remnants of it in me now, of the closure that I did not have with it. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, maybe even Scott has an idea of this sort of situation. I'm going to bring him up now because he just magically appeared. And oh, hey.
Hello, everybody. Well, first of all, I'm just really grateful to know that you all are putting on an amazing program, an amazing show. So I felt very confident that even as I was stuck in traffic, it was one of those things, have you ever been on a thing where you've got your GPS, it's telling you what time you're going to get there, and then all of a sudden it goes from 6:01 arrival to 6:20 arrival, to 6:51, to 7:01, to 7:51, right? It was one of those situations. We just sat for 30 minutes, but they cleared the accident, and here I am.
Yeah.
But again, thank you everybody for carrying on and covering. I will look forward to going back and watching what I missed.
So I just saw that Sylvia had put a comment to what I was commenting on, and she said, empty chair work has helped me. And going back to unresolved communication, you know, I would have loved to have said to my grandfather how much he meant to me, basically.
Yeah. I think almost one of the things we don't do is give the gratitudes. We miss out on being grateful and celebrating and what you appreciate, and then reversing roles. And I'd gladly do it with you at some point when you want, where you get to be him talking to you, what you meant to him. Because one of the things Marshall said, the greatest gift we can give is the gift of receiving. And your grandfather got to give to you, and what that meant to him to be your role model.
Yes, probably a lot. So thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
I will touch in on this for a second. When we're in the empty chair and we're having the imaginary conversation with the person we're missing, the key is to allow your imagination to go for it. Just really, the imagination is the doorway. And I know that when my wife passed, several of my friends were having more contact with her. And it was because my own mind kept getting in the way of, well, I'm just making it up. That's what I think she would say. Whereas people who weren't as attached were, you know, having much more ability to just have clear communication. So, and then since then, I read over and over and over how Einstein talked about how the imagination is the doorway. And Bob Dylan has a great quote. Somebody said, "How do you write so many songs?" He says, "I don't write any of them. I just write them down. I open my imagination and I write them down." So I think that's an important thing for us to you know, imagine. And I'd love to hear from Iara, because since I've tuned in, I haven't heard her much. So I'd love to hear what she has to offer.
Hi, Scott. I'm so happy you made it. Yay! That's wonderful. So answer is still to Omashar's question regarding that if you have an unresolved situation with somebody that already passed away, is there anything that I can do? And on this viewpoint of family constellation, yes. And you can do this exercise that Scott said, they call the empty chair, but family constellation see this in a different way. So let's say that Amashar decides that he wants to go to a group family constellation or a one-on-one session because he has unresolved situations with his grandfather. He would like to say things that he didn't have the opportunity to say, and would like to put resolution in some things. So let's say that you go in a group family constellation. You're going to have somebody that will represent your grandfather, but that person is not acting like your grandfather. It's not acting, it's not theater. That person actually will enter your grandfather morphogenetic field. And the morphogenetic field is that field that knows it all. So when he enters the morphogenetic field of your grandfather, that person immediately will start feeling like your grandfather would feel in your presence. It's amazing the things that happen. Sometimes somebody enters the morphogenetic field of alcoholic person, and the person will start feeling walking in a weird way and feeling like they're drunk, and they're like, why I'm feeling like that? And then they find out that the person that they're entered the field is alcoholic. Sometimes there will just come this emotional pain or even physical pain, and the person knows not her feeling because she's on the field of somebody else. That's how family constellation works. So Amashar, in the case like yours, I think it would be beneficial if you go to a group family constellation or a one-on-one family constellation where you have a person or the practitioner be on the field of your grandfather, and then you are in front of your grandfather, and pay attention to the dynamics that happen between the both of you to bring the resolution. What are the feelings that are coming up? What are the words that are coming out that you want to communicate with him? The person that is in the field of your grandfather, what are the things that are coming through them? What are the feelings? What are the words? What are the pains? What do you need to say to each other that you didn't have the opportunity to say to each other? You see that that's different than the empty chair exercise, because one, you're using your imagination. This one, you're not using imagination. They're entering your grandfather's field, and this person will feel the way your grandfather will feel in front of you. And this person will feel the pains of your grandfather, and can be very intense if it's a group family constellation, because the person is not used to. Some people feel nausea and they may throw up in the middle of the session. It may happen. And then what I tell people is like, okay, let's feel 90%, 80%, 60%, let's feel 10% to guide the people to feel less, because it can be intense. But from that, there is healing that comes from that as well. There is resolution of things that were not able to get resolved while he was still alive. So just an example of
Thank you.
that.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know where we are in the program, but I guess Omashar's done 2 songs. I know he'll do a closing.
It would be good to maybe bring up some information about our guests. You all have screen sharing, right? So if you'd like to bring up your websites or anything
Yeah,
like
since
that.
I wasn't here, and usually I put all that together. So I'm
Yes.
gonna have each of you do your own screen sharing of your website and your own shameless promotion for whatever you want people to know all about you.
And
how about
then we
you
can
start with
shamelessly
Katrina?
promote the Soul Search for this Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that I've got pulled up. That I can pull up. So this Saturday night, we will be doing another collaboration with Soul Search. And it's going to be all about healing. And some of their major healers are going to be with them. And Fanny and Vigari will be back playing music. And of course, Omashar will be playing music. And we will conclude with a lovely KES group, Healing by Deborah Juliet. So that's going to be this Saturday night. And that hopefully gave a little bit of time for Katrina to be ready to share whatever she wants to share.
So this is lovesmartcards.com. Of course, you can see the cards here, and there's a little screens. You can see what's in the box, some testimonials about other people using the cards. And then if you go to coaching and mediation, you can learn more about me. You can sign up for a Liberating Love Strategies session, where you can experience my work firsthand on some kind of topic that has been really challenging for you. And of course, you can sign up for my email there as well. So that's lovesmartcards.com. And I'll look forward to hearing from anyone who wants to reach out.
I want to say that her Love Smart cards are amazing. You know how like everybody, you go into their library and almost everybody in this room probably has Autobiography of a Yogi, maybe Be Here Now, Illusions by Richard Bach. Well, most of my friends have her Love Smart cards. They are, but there's Paul. I bring Paul up too. There's Paul with his set. And they are beautiful and they're wonderful. They're great for families.
Anybody who really wants to learn nonviolent communication and to do it quickly in a way that is engaging and supports you right away on the challenges that you're working through. I don't know of any faster way to learn the basic principles of nonviolent communication. So much of it is just practicing, identifying feelings and needs. And in this box, there's also character strengths in a way that blends into nonviolent communication. But when you flip through the cards, you'll build a somatic connection to your emotions. You'll gain the ability to identify your emotions quickly and to have a broad vocabulary, much more than just a dozen words to describe emotions. And your needs, the same way you'll build a somatic connection to this list of universal needs that drive all of action. When you have that, you'll be able to bring it up on an as-need basis, as life arises. So it gives you a vocabulary, and it helps to build a habit that will serve you for life. I love what Paul said earlier. There's life before NVC and there's life after NVC. I know that is true for just about everyone I've met who's really taken this work seriously.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And probably a perfect segue, since Paul's up, to share with us what you're up to, Paul.
Well, I wrote a best-selling book, which is really interesting for me because I am dyslexic, ADD, grammarly impaired. If people have seen me write my text, it looks like English is my second language. So it's an act of love, that book. But what I want to do is having done this for many years, there's 3 reasons relationship coaching fails. Number 1, to me, relationship coaching, counseling, therapy fails is because if you don't agree on the problem, you're not going to agree on the solution. And couples often think that their partner is the problem, and they're just here to make sure their partner shows up. So what I do is early on is I help them have a breakthrough and get clear what is the problem, not who is the problem. And what I'm offering is a breakthrough session. We'll spend about a half an hour together. You fill out a form, you watch a video, and we'll get clear so that you can get aligned on what's going on in the relationship if you're having relationship problems and you want to have a breakthrough. So first thing we'll do is we'll handle that, and then we can get clear. What's the problem? Is the problem worth solving? And do you want my help in solving it? So to do that, I should have gotten faster at sharing my screen. Dun, dun, dun. Here, it should be coming up there. Basically, it's arguelesslovemore.net/time, T-I-M-E. arguelesslovemore.net/time. And I'll actually put that in the chat. And you just go and you find a time and click on it and set up. We'll talk for a half an hour. And so you set up the time and then take a quick survey. So I can understand what's going on in your relationship, and we'll spend some time together. So that's an amazing event. And people have told me that half hour has given them more than they got in a year and a half of couples therapy. So thanks, Scott.
Paul is an amazing coach. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. And let's hear from Iara and what she's got going on.
Here we are. Well, right now I already went through like the retreats and workshops. Now I'm just offering one-on-one sessions. Now in the month of May, I'm giving myself a break from the retreats and workshops, at least for a month. But if anybody's interested about family constellation, we can do one-on-one family constellations online via Zoom. It works really well as well. Or if you're in Sedona, we can put a group together and work and do a group family constellation for you also. So I'm putting my website over here on the chat. That is lifechangebreakthroughs.com. At the end of the page, there is a contact form. You can just send me an email, send me a message, or even if you have a question regarding to the show, let me know. And for the people here from the Awakening World, if you mention that you're from the Awakening World, I'll have a special gift for you when you sign up for a family constellation session.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. The whole inspiration for this show started with Iara because I track her. She's, a Facebook friend, and I see all that she's doing and saw all the wonderful results people were getting. And I thought we need to do another, show with her. So you were the inspiration for tonight's show and for Healing Family Ties. And then, of course,
You've frozen, young man. So
next Wednesday night, our special guest, I'm sorry, 2 weeks from tonight, 2 weeks from tonight, our special guest is going to be Marianne Williamson. It's going to be an evening, just us talking to Marianne. So please, everybody, mark it on your calendars, let your friends know. Of course, it'll be free of charge for Global Peace Tribe members, anyone who has a subscription. And we really want to let everybody know, because it's going to be an amazing evening, having probably a good 90 minutes to 2 hours with Marianne. So
It's funny because last night I was just watching the interview that you did with Marianne a couple of weeks ago. And just one thing stood out for me. Then she said, you know, back in the day, let's say 10, 15 years ago, it was just about me waking up for myself only. And now it's about us all lifting each other up. It's not a singular pursuit anymore. It's all of us helping each other to awaken. They just stood out with me throughout my dream state as a beautiful thing that she, in the middle of her campaign, was able to have that clarity to say something so beautiful. So looking forward to her next interview with you, Scott.
thank you. Thank you very much, Omoshar. And thank you so much again for covering and hosting the show tonight. Let's give each of our presenters one last chance to share the one last thought that they might have, and then we will conclude with an Omoshar song. Well, here comes Katrina. We'll go in the same order. Take it away, Katrina.
All right. Yeah, it's been really lovely to be with you all this evening. You know, in terms of last thoughts, when it comes to healing the family, empathy. You know, if a plane's going down, they say, put your oxygen mask on first. You cannot give empathy to another person unless you are sufficiently resourced and have received enough empathy yourself. You can get it from another person, and you can learn to give that to yourself. So if you find that you're stimulated and in conflict with another person, really like pull out the Love Smart cards or pull out the words lists, the feelings and needs words lists. Identify what's going on for you. That's the way of putting on your own oxygen mask first, so that you can be there for the other people in your life. So really a blessing to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. That's a great reminder for everybody. Thank you. Mr. Sterling, what are your final thoughts?
I'm going to go back to stuff we've already said. Remember, we're always communicating either from our head, our heart, or our hurt. And if you really want to give somebody else that you love and care about a gift, empty their cup, listen to them. And if they're triggered, remember those magic words. What do you need to feel safe right now? What do you need to feel safe right now? Those are really powerful words. And even though I came up with that sentence, I didn't come up with the concept, but the sentence, and my partners have used this on me. I taught them it and they use it on me, and it still works. It still so works. So that's a gift you can give yourself and give them, and it will help get them out of their hurt and into their heart. Thanks for doing this, Scott.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Paul. And Yara, it all began with you, and we'll kind of come close to concluding with you. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone. Katrina, Paul, I learned so much from each one of you and from the comments also for the Awakening World community. My final thoughts is like, just remember that, okay, so we came from our mother and our father, right? So we're 50% our mother, 50% our father. We're talking about healing family ties. Now, if you have a hard time even accepting the woman where you came from and the man who you came from, you're denying your roots, where you came from. How do you expect to have like good relationship with other women and with other men if you're denying this very basic thing? You're denying the people that you came from. I'll say this is a super important thing through family constellation to heal any family ties. And it starts with compassion. It starts, as Katrina and Paul say, it starts with empathy. Have compassion through those ones that brought you to life. Have compassion, then knowing that most likely they did their best with what they had on that time and with what they knew at that time. Mistakes, okay, everybody commit mistakes. Maybe they're not such a good parents. Maybe they're not such a good parents, but maybe they didn't have the resources for that. So bring that compassion in, bring that acceptance of those that brought you to life into your heart. And this can heal a lot of family ties in your life. Thank you.
I'm having an internet wobble. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you, Iara. I noticed that Dorina asked a really good question about how NVC can be applied not only in personal relationships, but conflicts such as what's going on here in the United States with the campus protests. Oh, that's a good question. Unfortunately, compassionate communication does not work well in the legal system. The legal system, the judicial system, and definitely the police system is definitely not built on compassionate communication. It's based on crime and punishment. It's based on power over. It's based on attack and defend. The legal system is based on attack and defend. So I would say that the most important thing that you can do is to give yourself a lot of empathy and a lot of empathy to the people that are being unfairly treated. So finding those people that are activists, that care, and giving them tremendous appreciation and empathy and helping to fill their cup. Being an activist is very difficult, especially when you're going up against, police that are removing you forcefully. Sometimes in a one-on-one situation, but when there is a movement as large as 20 or 30 police officers coming in to move out people, unfortunately, compassionate communication is not going to work in that situation, which is sad, which is very, very, very sad. But empathy for the people and empathy for yourself. I think many of us are grieving as we watch the horror that's happening in Gaza. And so mourn and cry and pound pillows and allow yourself to feel the emotions that you might be feeling, and maybe even creating a support group to share and give each other empathy, whether it's climate change or Gaza or Ukraine, whatever it is that's breaking your heart. And that's hopefully part of what we do here on The Awakening World, is we provide inspiration at a time that there's a lot of heartbreak going on in our world. So that's about the best answer. I don't know, Katrina, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I mean, I get saddened that I want to have the tool that fixes it all, for sure. Violence is so painful, and unfortunately, again, we've been socially conditioned to think in terms of moralistic judgments. What's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And so we separate the world into this black and white. And then if we believe somebody's wrong or bad, then we might name call, we might punish, we might judge, we might attack in various ways. And this is a social conditioning that perpetuates conflict. So what we're seeing at Columbia University and in other places are a lot of people who have been, not only they're grieving Gaza, which is understandable, but they're also socially conditioned to not communicate in a way that can bring about social peace or actually be productive for finding solutions. So the reptile brain takes over, the brain goes offline, and it becomes messy. I wish we had a lot more people in our world who could bring empathy to each individual who's grieving the situation that's happening in the Middle East and in other horrible situations that are happening in our world right now. So I'm grateful for everybody who jumps in and says, I want to be one of those people who creates that change that's needed in the world.
Before we hang up, I'll put into the chat box a video of me sharing a story about Marshall Rosenberg. And it's a beautiful story about Marshall and being at an Israeli a refugee camp for Palestinians in Israeli-occupied Palestine. And he comes under tremendous attack and abuse from someone, and how he manages it. It's an incredibly beautiful story. And I'll put the video of my sharing that story. It's about a 9-minute video into the chat box. I just want to bring up our wonderful presenters one more time, and of course, wonderful Omar Shar. And we are going to conclude with an Omar Shar song, but one last time, thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Iara. Thank you, Paul. I have the greatest respect for all of you. And we are going to close out with an Omar Shar song.
What more could I be than what I am? Though it's taken some time to clear these clouds from my eyes. So open your heart and dance along. I'm thinking of time to stop that same old song. Hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. And lift her with my dreaming. So don't try to hold me to what I was. I've traveled through time to see this day arise. The love that I have is here for you. So open the door and let the sun shine in. I've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. La-da-da. I lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. I lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. So open your heart and dance along. I'm thinking it's time to stop that same old song. We've come alive, so hear me now. I am in love with the world around me, and I will hold her in my arms and lift her with my dreaming. Ba-da-da-da. because I am.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Big twinkles for Omashar. I'm going to go to gallery view for one last time for everybody so we can see everyone that's got their camera on. Adora, I had met Adora very briefly at the New Living Expo. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to connect, but it was great to get a hug. All right, everybody. God's blessings to each and every one of you. So much love. And I will look forward to seeing you hopefully on Saturday. Oh, tomorrow, I'm so glad I'm remembering. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on the Self-Love Show. Trish does a show every Thursday morning, and I'm her guest.
How
And
sweet. What time?
It's at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Pacific time?
10 a.m. Pacific time. Usually it actually starts at 10:05. They've got this weird thing where they start at 10:05. But you can find it on Facebook. Just go to my profile page or Love Coach Academy or put in Self-Love Show. It's also on a bunch of podcast type things. And I'm going to be talking about self-love. And so I'm so glad I remembered to mention that to everybody. So would love to see some of you tomorrow morning.
Brilliant.
I did send out an email to everybody, all of our subscribers, that has some of the information about that. So that email went out this afternoon. So hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow morning, and hopefully I'll see most of you on Saturday night. And much love to each and every one of you. Thanks again, Omashar, for taking over and running things, and God's blessings, everyone. See you all soon.